The Keurig is bad.
Here are 5 reasons why.
Applauded for its convenience and ease of use. These machines are extremely popular and can be seen in millions of households all around the world.
That often leaves very little room for people to ruminate about the alternatives, and so we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why the Keurig makes a bad cup of coffee.
Reason number 1, freshness.
Now, with the Keurig itself, the coffee is pre-ground to a certain consistency. It's never going to be the same as whole bean coffee because once coffee is ground, it is known to start going bad as early as 30 seconds after it is freshly ground. And so after this coffee gets sent through the supply chain, gets packaged, gets put into stores, gets put into a warehouse, you don't know how long that coffee has been in that package for. And with that comes a significant compromise on the taste.
All that also being done as cheaply as possible, I might add. All of the K-Cup manufacturers claim that their pods are airtight, sealed for freshness, nitrogen purged, etc. But in reality, these K-Cups are all about convenience and speed, and not quality.
Reason number 2, grind size.
Due to the delivery mechanism and the speed at which it pushes water through the pod, the grind size needs to be fairly fine for the whole process to work as intended by Keurig.
The regular drip grind size is generally a medium coarse type of grind. You can see here that we have 2 different grind sizes. So the way that Keurig brews their coffee is through a slightly pressurized form of drip. Now, a general drip consistency is a medium coarse grind, and we look at the 2 grind sizes we have down here. The first one is from the K-Cup pod. That one, as you can see, is a bit more fine than the consistency that you would desire. That's also partially due to the pressure, that a finer grind size will take a longer extraction if you're brewing it for a pour over. But if we look at the second grind size, that is more desirable overall for a drip coffee. Now with this though, the Keurig itself ends up having to try to compensate for the fine grind size with its pressure, but does not produce enough pressure to actually create the kind of desirable consistency of a good cup of coffee.
In this scenario, does the grind size matter that much? You be the judge. But that might be the reason for your K-Cups tasting watery and under-extracted. Which brings us into the 3rd reason why the Keurig makes a bad cup of coffee. Reason number 3, the ratios.
With the actual ratios, we did the math offset. The general amount that you would find in a K-Cup is about roughly 8 to 11 grams. Now, brewing at the 6-ounce ratio would yield about a 1 to 17 brewing ratio, between a 1 to 17 and a 1 to 15. That's not too bad. However, if you want to go any higher in the amount of water that you are using, 8 ounces, 10, 12, you are going to get a vastly under-extracted cup of coffee because the brew ratio should not really go higher than a 1 to 17 ratio.
Here's a visual representation for a 10-ounce cup of coffee. Here's how much coffee is in a typical K-Cup. Here's how much coffee you should be using to brew 10 ounces of coffee. Reason number 4, complete lack of adjustability.
Now with the Keurig, from what we've read and what we've sampled, generally it brews coffee at 192 degrees Fahrenheit or right around that range. So with a finer grind size, what that actually does is that does aid in the extraction, but not to the extent necessary to where you can actually get a more flavorful cup. And so the Keurig itself has no way of actually adjusting the temperature based upon the roast of the coffee. So you're gonna get the same exact extraction from a dark roast as you would a light roast. This is not desirable because different roasts of coffee require different temperatures to bring out different nuances of the bean. So if you're starting with a low grade quality and you're going for a low grade extraction at an undesirable temperature, the end product is anything less than enjoyable.
Also, now this is based on opinion of course, but I think a lot of people, including myself, we enjoy tinkering with the coffee process and perfecting a certain bean, a certain brew, making little adjustments here and there to bring out the exact flavors that you're looking for in an exact roast that you are using. And of course you lack all of that with the Keurig. There's no soul, there's no emotion attached to it, there's no enjoyment, there's really no satisfaction.
Which brings us to our final reason, reason 5, the packaging.
Now we are not climate advocates or members of Greenpeace. However, the K-Cups are quite a big environmental issue.
Every single year, billions and billions of K-Cups are made in the US alone. I believe in 2015, it was roughly over 10 billion K-Cups, which if you lined them point to point or end to end, you could wrap around the earth many different times.
10 times to be exact. And that's only the consumption of the United States. And out of the hundreds of companies that produce K-Cups, in the year 2015, only 4 companies had recyclable pods.
Which is absolutely wild to me because on top of that, the actual container, though it claims to be BPA free, though it claims to be free of things that are harmful to ingest, I just cannot find that a high degree of heat in the actual water that you're using to brew with the Keurig, meeting the plastic of the K-Cup, is going to not give you some kind of chemical infusion or some sort of undesirable microplastic pieces in your coffee.
I don't know how much I trust boiling water, hitting a thin piece of plastic, and doing that multiple times a day, day in and day out for years on end. Nowadays, people are concerned with microplastics, chemical contamination, all that stuff. And no matter how much these pods claim that they do none of that stuff and they're completely non-toxic, I personally just don't buy it.
So there are plenty of alternatives to Keurig that will give you a much more fresh cup of coffee. And yes, some of them will require a bit more of a time commitment. That being said, as you grow in mastering those processes, the time commitment will in fact shorten, or even getting up a little bit earlier or pre-grinding your coffee in the morning is a great way to consolidate the amount of time necessary to brew it.
Additionally, by brewing your own coffee manually, you will grow with the process, you will learn the process, you will even perhaps master the process, and you will learn to create an exact cup of coffee and bring out the exact flavors that you like. In my opinion, it's a very, very satisfying journey.
And this is a journey that we've both been on, and so you get to actually share with friends, with family. You can go on forums and learn techniques, see what others have experienced. It becomes an entire thing in and of itself, and not just some detached utility used to keep you awake during the day.
So buy yourself a grinder, buy yourself a V60 or a Chemex or even a French press, and start experimenting.
All right, so that brings us to the end. Have you tried Keurig? Has your experience been like ours? Has it been different? Either way, please leave a comment below. Tell us what you think. And also, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps the channel out a lot. Helps us make more videos just like this one for your viewing pleasure. Sergey, there is something that we really want to tell people.
Here we go.
Every single person out there should know this.
We implore you.
Deeply, very deeply, implore you to please, for heaven's sake, for your own betterment, for the betterment of
humanity,
families,
really.
For the betterment of humanity at large, to please keep using your whole brain.